Hey everyone, Dockwell here, and today we're going to be doing the mid-tier list for patch 7.39c, and if you look back at the old tier list, you might notice that not much has changed. It has shifted around a little bit, but there's actually not a ton that's changed, so hopefully this won't be like an hour-long video like a lot of these are sometimes. I'll probably go through things really quickly because I think the mid lane is the lane that's changed the least in terms of the meta from the last letter patch to now. So anyway, starting off with S tier, we have Puck again. Yep, it's Puck. This hero's really good. Don't know if you know that, but it's actually a very, very good hero. This one is pretty good. The pulling in. The curveball, people are experimenting with this more and playing it more. And it's kind of crazy because if you go to Dota 2 Pro Tracker, both of these facets are really good in terms of win rate and pick rate. So people are kind of picking both. It just depends on what you think you're going to need in that specific game. I'm not a huge Puck player. I've played a decent amount of the hero, but honestly, I can't exactly tell you why you would pick curveball instead of this. I mean, obviously curveball is better for like, you know, just harassing a little bit more or more easily in the lane. Maybe if you feel like people are going to be able to dodge your orb a little bit, then you can just pick this. Or if you feel like you just need to be able to get in and out more, you need more survivability, this can definitely be that. This is more just offensive in nature, I think. That's kind of my guess in terms of, you know, which one you would pick and why. If you feel like you need survivability, go with this one. If you feel like you need offensive capabilities, go with this one. But I think you honestly can't go wrong with either of them. This one takes a little bit more skill, of course. But yeah, Puck's just doing the same things Puck's been doing for a long time. So I don't know. Maybe they'll nerf him next time. Maybe. I don't know. I think he got nerfed last time, but he's still just a very good hero overall. Then next we have Lesh, and again, kind of just like Puck, it's just doing the same thing it's always done. There's really not much to say about it. It's basically the same hero. It's just a lot of the other really, really good heroes got a little bit nerfed, and then heroes like Lesh either didn't get touched or didn't get nerfed that much, so they're just sticking around in the S tier. Another very good hero. Like a year or two ago, it was just broken. Quinn was playing it all the time in Gaming Gladiators when they had their amazing run, and then it got nerfed, kind of went away, but it didn't get nerfed that much, and now in the last like 3 or 4 months, it's kind of come back into the meta. People are like, oh wait, this hero still does insane amounts of damage. You're going to pick Misanthropy pretty much every time because it just makes your ability do way more damage. Yes, you don't deal any damage to buildings, but you don't really need to, honestly, because these days you feel, you know, you have so many like carries, you know, 1 position, 3 position, 4 position even. There's so many people that can hit buildings, and you can still even hit buildings with your right click. It's not a big deal. You don't really need the push that much. It just is way better to do way more damage with Diabolic Edict, especially because this is pure damage now, so it just amps up this damage way more with this. And if you didn't know, now that you basically don't do any damage to towers, if you clear through the creep wave for whatever reason, like in the mid lane, you can literally just dive the enemy and not really take tower aggro and just kill them just with Diabolic Edict maxed. And, you know, because your creeps are tanking the tower, you're just using spells on them, and you're not taking tower aggro. If the enemy's creeps are dead, you can literally dive them and push them out of the lane. So if you're really good at Lesh, you can absolutely crush laning stages because of that. So just a kind of small tip. But otherwise, this hero just does ridiculous amounts of damage. You know, the Ags is really good. It's just impossible to kill the hero unless you have the right lineup to counter him and stuff like that, especially if he gets Bloodstone off. So just a very good hero overall. And then lastly in S tier, we have Queen of Pain. And this is a very interesting hero because this hero's probably been S tier for like a year or more. But the weird thing about that is it was an S tier hero with the Masochist facet for about the last year. Like, it's been a year or so that Masochist was really good, and that build is just doing insane amounts of damage. So basically you just go Dagon and you just rush to like Dagon 5, and you maybe get one other small item, like you finish Boots, or maybe even just go Brown Boots and just go right into Insane Burst and just use this and the Sonic Wave to just blow any hero up in the game. That was kind of the main way to play the hero for a long time, and it was S tier because of that. But that got nerfed pretty heavily a few months ago, so that kind of fell out of favor. People were still picking it, and you can still pick it. It still is a viable build, but it's just not as good as people realized that Bondage is actually better now, and you can go for this and absolutely dominate, and you basically go for Blade Mail and Sange and Kaya, and you just get super tanky. You also probably get a Witchblade, and you might get an Ags, and you go for more like super high HP, super tanky, hard to bring down, very annoying, and then kind of scaling into a right-click hero, and that's very different than the burst of Masochist. So this hero still has 2 ways to play, which is also awesome, because if you see a game where you feel like for whatever reason Masochist is going to be really good, you can still go for it. Otherwise, you just become this tanky kind of right-clicking beast later into the game, and this has probably the best win rate and pick rate of all the mid lane heroes. It's probably just the best pub hero in general. So if you're going to go for like one hero that you want to spam and play a lot, I would say Queen of Pain going for the Bondage facet is going to be that this patch. And then the last thing I wanted to say just about the S tier heroes in general, if you look at the last tier list I did in the last patch, there was like 3 or 4 other ones maybe here. And that's honestly one of the biggest things that happened in this patch is a lot of the A tier is very similar. It's just a lot of these heroes that were in the S tier got like giga nerfed or nerfed pretty heavily. And then some of the other heroes that were a little bit worse got a little bit better. And then otherwise, you know, that's really all that's happened in this patch in terms of the adjustment for the tier list. Hey guys, just wanted to take a quick second to remind you I'm streaming every Monday through Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern. Links to my Twitch and Kick are in the description. Also, every Friday I host a 1v1 mid tournament where the winner gets $25 and a random viewer also gets $25. So don't forget to follow there. Also like, comment, subscribe, ring the bell, and now let's get back to the video. Then we can move on to A tier, and we have Storm Spirit, we have Ember Spirit, we have Void Spirit. I would say they're all pretty even. At A tier, I think they all deserve it. Void Spirit, I think even in the last patch I had Void Spirit at A. I think this hero deserves it. I would say that maybe you could say Ember is more popular in pros, but I think all 3 of them deserve A tier. They're all pretty solid. You can pick any one. They have different matchup strengths and weaknesses, of course, but I think they all deserve this A tier here. Maybe you could make an argument for one being B, maybe even one being S. I don't really think any of them are S necessarily, but I think they're all just really good here. I'm not going to comment on them specifically because I think all 3 of them were A tier last time. They're still that good. They're still right there. You can get away with picking Spirit heroes in almost every game, and they're still good. They just do have their weaknesses at times. And then Invoker has gone through a lot of different changes, but it just feels like this hero is just decent and has been decent for a while. You can get away with picking Invoker in almost every game if you're a good Invoker player, know what you're doing. The hero does have those 3 facets that you can go for in different situations now. Again, as a non-Invoker player, I'm not going to pretend to be an expert of which one is best. I just obviously know the damage one, especially if you have something like a Faceless Void or some other big setup. You obviously want to go for Cataclysm. That can be really, really good in every single situation. But just the fact that you have these other methods, if you feel like you're really never going to be setting up for a good Cataclysm, which I think is the most popular one still, you can go those other routes, and that is a viable build. So I just think in pubs, Cataclysm is obviously going to be the best one overall. And I still think has a good laning stage. It's still very annoying in the ways Invoker always is. Then we have Kunkka. I was debating putting Kunkka down a tier, but honestly, I still think it does deserve A. I still think it is pretty good. It is kind of doing well in the mid lane overall. It still has a great, you know, boat and team fight. You still can do a decent amount of damage. You can still go Blade Mail. You can still potentially go Radiance. You can still do all those things that it was doing in the last patch. I do think it is one of those heroes that's on the downtrend. So if you wanted to argue it's B tier, I think I would hear you out. I just think it still deserves A tier as probably the best melee hero in the mid lane right now. You see there aren't really any other ones. I mean, Ember, Spirit, and Void, yes, they're melee heroes, but I don't really count them as melee. They're kind of more spirit heroes. I would put them in a different category. This is just a traditional melee hero. And then we also have Monkey King, which is another melee hero. But again, this is a weird one where this hero, because of the range and because of the way it functions, it's just a little bit different. I consider it all, you know, a staple mid hero, but that's the other melee hero I would say that is just traditional in mid that is very, very good right now. Probably a little bit better in pros maybe, just because people like the flexibility of this hero in pros, but I still think in pubs it is very good. If you want to go like carry from the mid and you can buy a diffusal and stuff like that to just have like a tempo timing instead of going for Battle Fury or other items, you can definitely do that with Monkey, and you still have a facet that's really good from the mid lane once you level up or get a bunch of levels. So Monkey is a very good hero in the mid lane, does have some obvious counters or difficult matchups as well, which is why in a lot of cases I don't know if Monkey will ever really be S tier in the mid, just because there are always going to be ways to take advantage of melee heroes like this. If you don't have any good, like Ember and Void, because they're spirit heroes, they have these ways of dealing with certain matchups where Monkey doesn't really have that. Like, you're just going to right click guys, and like you're just going to rely on your extra range to get those clicks in. That's really what you're doing, and if you can't do that for whatever reason, you are going to have trouble at times. Then we have cheese heroes, I would say. I kind of consider all these cheese heroes. OD is like in between a cheese hero and not. I would say this is kind of a weird hero. It's always awkward just because you're not ganking all that much on the hero. You are just kind of right clicking. You're just kind of AFK in mid a lot of ways unless you get a rune, and it can be like you're just trying to bully the other mid laner to go away. And so that's why it's just a little bit of an awkward hero. But in pubs especially, it's one of those heroes that you just can never count out an OD. This hero is insane. It does so much damage. It blows people up with the ult. And then if you get your Ags later, you're insanely hard to kill. Like, it's almost impossible to kill you. And so because of that, I can never count the hero out. I just feel like it has this weird impact from like 5 to 20 minutes that can make the game feel awkward. But again, in pubs, that's not really the big deal because people aren't that efficient in that time period anyway. Just sometimes you can get really far behind and end up losing games on OD because you really didn't do anything from 5 to 20 minutes. So if you are going to pick OD, I would say try to maximize your ganking potential, even though you're not that good at rotating compared to other heroes, obviously, like all of these really good heroes. Then we have Tinker. This is a kind of spammy hero that is a little bit of a cheese hero. I still think this hero is pretty good. It's not getting picked as much. It's not nearly as popular as it was. But I still think from the mid lane, you can totally get away with it. It is still good. Maybe you would argue as a cheese hero, it's B, but I still think it's pretty good. Huskar is one that I think was S tier last patch and now is just bumped down to A. It still is a good cheese hero. It still can be picked. I just don't think it's as good as it once was. And it's not a significant difference. It's just not nearly as good in terms of like saying it's broken in S. But one bump down is not too significant. But you're doing all the same things that you've been doing with Huskar for a while. And then Meepo kind of got bumped up a tier. I think the win rate and pick rate has gone up a little bit. I just think this hero is overall best as a mid laner. And I think you definitely can carry games as Meepo from the mid lane. It just, you do have to be careful because you are on a timing. Then next for B tier, we have Shadow Fiend, and this hero is kind of on the upswing, especially as a carry, but also as a mid. I think once people kind of realize, oh wait, Shadow Fiend is kind of a good hero, people start to pick it in the mid lane as well, you know, again, and people are going for both builds. I think the mid lane is more of the magic damage build. I still think that's pretty good. You can still totally go it. You can get taken advantage of in some matchups though, where you really struggle, but you can also dominate some other matchups with your raises, so don't count that out. And also just the fact that it is getting more popular as a right clicker means you can kind of do a pseudo, you know, half magic, half right click build from the mid lane. Although if you're going to pick it mid, I probably would go all in for the magic damage, because if you're doing right, I think right click from the mid lane does work as an SF if you're like below like 4k MMR. But once you start getting a little bit higher, you're kind of griefing in a way because you're just not really having any impact on the map. Like I was talking about OD not having impact, dude. If you don't go for like magic damage on SF and you're just right clicking, like you're just not going to have any, you're not going to have any ganking potential at all. You're just going to walk to the lane and click the tower. Like, you know what I mean? I mean, maybe once you get your ult, you'll use that a little bit, but it's not going to do much damage and it's not really going to do anything. So that's why you can get away with it the lower MMR you are, but I wouldn't suggest it too much. Then we have Lina, kind of in a similar situation where it's a little bit awkward on the hero. That's why it's around B. It's an okay-ish carry, but not great. Because it's a little bit awkward, like what build exactly are you going ever since the Gleipnir change. And then as a mid laner, you still are going to go, I personally would go for more of a right click build in the sense that you're going transitioning into the late game as a right clicker. You're not going for the Ags build. I don't think that's really that viable or that good anymore because you're not blowing people up. If you wanted to go for a blow people up, just you can still pick Queen of Pain and go for Masochist. I still think that's better than the Lina Ags build these days. But you can still go kind of a pseudo half hybrid right click magic damage, and you still have a little bit more ganking potential than maybe an SF, but it is still a little bit awkward. That's why it's only B. But I still really like the hero personally. I just think it's a very good hero, especially in pubs. Same thing with Necro. Can be awkward. Buying a Radiance, which I definitely would every time you pick this mid, is something that is very, very greedy, but you also can have some impact ganking with your ult and stuff like that, and it can be very annoying, and especially in pubs, it's going to get to the late game, and you're going to be a beast, and so that's why I like putting Necro up here, even though higher MMR or pros, this hero's probably maybe C tier or even like D tier, like they never play it, but I think in pubs, it definitely deserves a B. Overall, I just think it's a great hero in pubs. And then Earthshaker, I like this hero from the mid lane. It's kind of one of my favorite mid laners that I don't play too much, but I like seeing it mid because I don't just like it as a support. I feel like it's awkward as a support. I like the kind of jumping around with the Ags build and just one-shotting people or deleting people. That's pretty cool. And I feel like it's one of those things that looks good. It feels awesome when it's very, very good, but you can deal with it. Like there are ways to punish Earthshaker or deal with him. He's not getting too out of control. It's not as survivable or annoying as a Puck. And because of that, it's just right there in B. And again, because you're a melee hero, you can get really taken advantage of in some certain matchups and don't have great lanes. And then sometimes it can feel really awkward to get to your blink or to get to your Ags timing, and you won't have much impact. And so because of that, it's only B. But in a lot of games, you can still do a lot with Earthshaker. Then we have Pango. I think this got bumped up a tier from the last patch. I just think with a lot of other things falling off, just kind of getting a little bit worse, Pango just bumped up one tier. I think this hero is always pretty viable in pubs because, you know, you're always going to be able to get something out of the laning stage as long as you get some XP. You can just eventually clear through the wave and just use your ult mid to kill the mid or just to gank with your ultimate. You can almost always do that reliably. You always have a generally reliable laning stage because even though you're a melee hero, you have a lot of survivability with your crash, mobility, and with just being able to, you know, go over the cliffs and stuff to get out of sticky situations. So because of that, I think as a pub hero, it's always going to be pretty decent. Then Timbersaw, another one I think got bumped up a tier, was kind of on the downward trend, decline in the last 6 months, but then with a bunch of other stuff getting nerfed, kind of just got bumped up a little. I definitely think you can get taken advantage of again, like in other certain matchups. But then if you just get a good lane and you get off to a good snowball, especially if there's a lot of strength heroes in the enemy team, then you will just absolutely destroy late game. Once you get Ags, you're going to be very hard to bring down, and you can have a lot of impact on this hero. But again, it's just not the strongest overall. Pudge, I was debating where to put this hero. I was thinking maybe C tier, but if you look, actually mid lane is probably the best lane for the hero, and it's getting picked a lot. The win rate is pretty good, so I think it does deserve B. I would consider it a pseudo-ish cheese pick. You have to be good at the hero. You have to land your hooks on mid, but even if you don't necessarily do that, if you have a good laning stage, you can definitely gank and have a lot of impact that way. But you do need to be very good at just being active, because that's what the hero does. If you're not building up stacks and being active, then you're just not using the hero to its fullest potential, and that does take skill and understanding of what the hero does. Then the rest of B tier is probably like specialist, kind of cheese, kind of not. I mean, Batrider's at a weird spot. I talked about it last time. It's kind of on the upswing. It's come back when they did a bunch of these changes, but I still don't see it in pubs very much. It's just a little bit of an awkward hero because not too many people play it, but it is decent right now, so I definitely think it does deserve B, but we'll see where it goes with the next patch. If they change it again, if they leave it as is, if it stays right here, if it kind of goes on the upswing. I wouldn't mind seeing Batrider back in the meta, actually, because I feel like this hero's been dead for so long. Basically, I think I said it last time, but there was like a 10-year period plus where this hero was just S tier constantly. Like, no matter what they did, it was just so good. But now for the last like 3-4 years or so, it feels like it's been absolutely just completely obliterated. So I wouldn't mind seeing it come back into the meta, pro and pub alike. And then we have Phoenix, kind of a specialist hero. Again, was debating whether to put the C tier, but I think it does deserve B. It has a very good win rate when it is picked. Just a low pick rate because not many people play it. But if you know what you're doing and you know how to take advantage of Phoenix, you can absolutely crush the mid lane and you can absolutely crush games. Late game, this hero is absolutely ridiculous. You just have a sort of awkward time when you don't have your ult and it's like mid game, and if you didn't get off to a good start. Then Keeper of the Light, just kind of a full magic damage burst kind of hero that can just fall off late game. I think that's the biggest problem with it, is especially in pubs, once it hits 30 plus minutes, not saying you can't have impact, but you're not going to have nearly as much impact. And even if you do take over the entire map, going high ground isn't exactly this hero's strengths. You need to rely on your teammates, which in pubs, we all know that's not always going to be a good thing. So that's why Keeper of the Light is B tier, and unless it's absolutely giga broken, it usually doesn't get to the A, S tier kind of ranking, but it's pretty good for where it's at right now. Then we have Lone Druid, just another specialist here. You can get away with it if you really know what you're doing. And same thing with Broodmother. You can get away with it mid if you really, really know what you're doing. Then C tier, we have an interesting one. We have Death Prophet, and I put it C because I still think it's okay, but I was debating even putting it D. I think D is maybe overkill. I think this might even be an overreaction to the nerfs. I think the nerfs were big. Don't get me wrong. They were pretty big, but I still think it maybe after everything evens out is maybe B tier. But right now, the win rate and the pick rate just dropped off a complete cliff. It was literally S tier, probably the broken hero of the patch before the last letter patch. And now it's just not good. Like, people are not picking it. It is not good. It is just completely dumpstered because mainly the thing that people were going for were the attack speed talent and the Ags, and that slow is really important with sticking on people. But now that's basically gone. I mean, you can still get the Ags. You still have attack speed, but that slow is so big. And I remember at the time being like, this is a big, big nerf. It might have been the biggest loser of the patch. That was my prediction. And I think it definitely came true after we see the tank in the win rate and the pick rate. So I still think it's a little bit over, how do I put it? Like I said, just people are overestimating how much it was nerfed. I still think it can have a great laning stage. You can still take over games. You can still kill people with your ult and run people down. You can still do all of this kind of stuff. It's just not as good as it was because they nerfed the only thing that was making it good. And before that, it was, if you remember, like D, maybe even F tier. It was like really bad for a long time. It's kind of in that Batrider situation where it was so good for so long, and now it's been kind of bad for a few years. And it finally came back, and they were like, get out of the meta. We don't want you here. Then we have Tiny. You can still pick it mid. You can still gank. You can still burst people. It's just they've killed that build. They've killed all the Tiny builds. It felt like this hero was an amazing 4, an amazing mid, an amazing carry. It was like an amazing in every position for a long, long time. For the last like 5 years, people have always found a way to play Tiny. And now it finally seems like it's not a dead hero by any means, but it's finally kind of gone away. It's only like C tier as a mid, maybe C or D tier. I forget where I put it, but it's pretty low. I think D tier as a carry. It's really not great anymore overall. Its best position might be 4, and even then it's not great. They've just taken a lot of the damage away from the avalanche toss combo and stuff, and then the right clicks obviously aren't even something you're going to be doing on mid anyway, but they've just taken away a lot of the damage that it used to have. Like, if you think about probably 6 months, a year ago, whenever it was doing like double the amount of damage as what it does now. Then we have Magnus. You can never count out Blink Skewer and Ultimate and Horn Toss and all that kind of stuff. But I think when they changed the Ags again, it kind of tanked the hero's win rate. They also took away like the carry version of the hero that you could play, which also hurt the mid version because even though you're not going full carry items, doing more damage can be an option from the mid lane. So overall, you're still a utility hero that can have a lot of impact, but unless you're skewering people under tower, your laning stage isn't the best anyway. And then later in the game, you're really just that utility, blink skewer, put people out of position hero. And that's not always going to be the best. Like, you can't always rely on that to win games. Then we have Earth Spirit, another kind of classic just mid hero, which I was debating putting in D. I think it might have had it D last time. But again, because a lot of things in the last patch got nerfed, a couple things like Earth Spirit I think rose to the top. Not getting picked a lot, is a specialist hero, but is viable-ish. So I think I just didn't want to put it D. I don't think it deserved D because it did have a positive win rate when I looked at the win rate on Dota 2 Pro Tracker. So I felt like it did deserve at least a little bump up. Same thing with Primal Beast. You can get away with it. Decent-ish hero. Doesn't deserve necessarily D, which I think it was there last time because it got a bump up with everything else being nerfed a little bit. I think heroes like Earth Spirit, Primal Beast, Pango, Timbersaw, they all kind of just went up one tier from where they were before because of all the nerfs to everything else. Then Kez, an interesting hero that it's hard to say, is this a mid, is this a carry, what exactly is it? I think it does have some success in the mid lane, can be taken advantage of a lot in very specific matchups, and there's a lot of good ranged heroes that can counter this hero in the lane. But if you get off to a good start, if you have a good lane, you are a ganking beast, you are a mid-game just insane hero that will just kill anything, and you do have good scaling late game damage where you become another core. I think it's just that early on, if you don't get off to a good start, it can feel like, well, what is this Kez really doing? Then we have Wind Ranger. I think just an okay ranged mid hero. It's just weird because a lot of these other heroes that are mid laners as well, they just have either more magic damage, like an Ember Spirit has more magic damage, more mobility, but also in a way like more right click damage than this hero. There's just like all these other heroes that do more than this. Even like Shadow Fiend Lina, they just have more magic and more right click in a way. But you can totally get away with it. I think this is a weird pub hero where you can kind of solo carry in a lot of ways, especially in very specific types of games. But I think the one problem with Wind Ranger is just as a core, ever since, 3 or 4 years ago when it was really popular, with things in the meta just becoming stronger, with there being more like carries from the 4 position, it's no longer the case where you can just pick one hero on the enemy team, kill them with your ult, and then you win the fight. Like, that doesn't happen all the time anymore. Where in the past, you just had one carry. If you just focus down the carry, you win. That's not really the case anymore because there's other heroes that are doing as much or more damage than the carry these days. Then Sniper, a hero that I think got bumped up a tier, so you can play it mid. It is very annoying to deal with. The laning stage can just absolutely stomp people, but then the problem is the mid game. What are you doing? You're not a great ganker. Sure, you can TP in to counter gank, but then like from 10, 15 to 30-ish minutes, you're either just like, I don't know, sieging high ground yourself because you guys stomped, or you're just in your base and just hoping that the enemy throws. I just don't like the fact that as a mid laner in general, your play, like your main play to win games as Sniper mid is either to stomp so hard it's insane, or to just be like turtling in your base and hoping the enemy throws. That's really not a good strategy overall, but you can still do it. It still is probably the most annoying hero to go high ground against, so it still has that, going for it. Then we have Visage, a cheese-ish hero, a specialist hero that's just not great. Kind of hasn't been on the downswing in the last few patches. Is still pickable-ish, I guess, but not that great. Arc Warden, I kind of even had this, I think, maybe F tier as a carry. I think people are playing it mid now, kind of realizing it is sort of a mid because of the rune thing, where you can, like, kind of magnetize runes to yourself, which I guess helps in some sense, but it's still not very popular. Again, if you're a specialist Arc Warden player, you can still have some success, of course, but it's just not super popular, not super good. And then finally, we have D tier, and starting off with Zeus, this hero has just been nerfed a lot because it was so popular, it was so good for so long, that now it's just kind of in the dumpster a little bit. You can still totally pick it. The problem is you're not doing as overwhelming damage as you used to, and the other problem is that you're just a complementary piece to everything else that's happening in the game. So you don't really have anything that you do other than just straight damage. So all the other heroes on your team better cover all the bases. There better be like initiation, counter initiation, ganking, a tons of right click damage, save, like, I don't know, any other thing that a team needs. you better have that in your other 4 heroes. And obviously that's good as a mid laner. You can see if that's the case and then pick Zeus as just this good last damage. You know, we have no magic damage. It's all right click. Let's say we have a right clicker. I think I say this like almost every time. I'm having deja vu. Maybe we have, I even think I say maybe that every time. And now the next tier list I'm going to do, I'm going to say that I say that every time. I'm just going to keep doing that every time. Anyway, ignore me. The point is that what I'm saying is, let's say you have a PA as a carry and you have a Slardar as an off lane. Let's say you have like some other right click, like 4 position or something. Let's just pretend that. Zeus might be a good addition to that because you have, you know, mobility, you have stun, you have minus armor, you have right click, you have all these things. We just want some magic damage hero to do something, right? Let's say like your 5 position is a good ganker and your 4 is too. So you don't really need pick off or gank, and Zeus is a good complement to that. I think I spent more time on Zeus than I needed to, but yeah, that's the kind of long and short of Zeus. TA, just all about farming super quickly, doing a lot of, you know, minus armor damage, just more of a carry these days. Mid lane you can get away with, but you're not really farming super quickly because there's not a lot of camps close to you, and you're also not ganking. So that's why it's just like awkward from the mid lane. Like you better dominate your mid lane, otherwise what are you doing? DK kind of just a bad hero now. DK just kind of fell off a cliff after a few months ago where they just nerfed everything about him. So I guess you could get away with it, but I don't even know what the build is mid really anymore. Like, what are you even just going blink and then, you know, right click items, I guess? I don't know. It's just weird and awkward. Viper just so slow. I like what the hero does. Obviously, it is very annoying when the hero is good because it is a lane dominating hero. And it seems like it should be good because, you know, you like can spit on the towers and melt them. So that's good where it never used to do that before. And obviously you have a break in your ultimate, which seems fantastic. But for whatever reason, it's just because this hero is so slow. Not just like movement speed, just overall in the game. Like your farm is just, it feels like even when you do farm, like even when you put points into W and you just try to farm waves and camps, it feels like every other hero in the game somehow still farms faster than you. And it feels like you just can't gank at all. You are just slow in general. Are you buying Blink? I mean, maybe this hero can come back with like some kind of weird Blink build. Like maybe that's a thing. I don't know. It's just at a really bad spot, I think, because of how slow it is and because of a weird build-up. Clinks just can be taken advantage in the mid lane. If you can get out of the mid lane with Clinks in a good position, you can dominate the game. But that's just like never happening because you have like 2 HP the whole... Unironically, you have like 300 HP. Like what actually is it? Like someone just tell me in the comments. I think it might be 400 HP. I think it might be 102 HP. And then Razor, just an awkward hero. Can be a mid lane hero, but it's just whatever. Like sure, you can maybe use your link on the mid laner to win the lane, and then it's the problem is you're farming, are you ganking, what are you doing? It's just, I think this hero is just, we're really at an awkward spot. It feels like if this hero's good, it's an off laner. Sand King, another weird one. Like you would just rather have a lot of these other melee heroes than the Sand King. You could get away with it maybe, but it's just kind of fallen off. People pick it and still have an okay win rate, so that's why I didn't put it F, but I think it was here last patch too. Then Dazzle, I put it F because people just stopped playing it, had an abysmal, terrible win rate, and now it's kind of come back. You could even say Dazzle might be C tier. I'm just not really believing it yet. I just think the ultimate range, I think, didn't they nerf that back a few patches ago? The range on the ultimate is like 3 feet. Like you just can't even run. Before it felt like you cast your ultimate and the thing could just run around the whole map. Now it feels like you cast your ultimate and it can't run like more than a couple hero spaces away. I'm pretty sure that's what they nerfed before, and it just feels bad. I don't believe in what the hero does fundamentally as a mid laner, but I think the win rate's actually pretty good right now in terms of like it probably would deserve C. I just put it in D tier because I just don't believe in it. And then lastly, Alchemist, not really a mid laner anymore these days. You could probably take this hero out of the list in general, but I think it might come back. If they ever shift around the like camps around the mid lane where you can farm a small camp or a medium camp or something like that, you can still sort of do that, but it just is too far away these days, so Alchemist isn't that great. Plus, the focus on farming and stuff and just being a super farmy mid laner isn't really there anymore. Skywrath is all about magic, but you know, all these other heroes that do magic damage are just better this hero. Same thing with Pugna. Like, sure, you're pushing towers or whatever, but you almost do the same thing as a support. So again, these heroes would just feel like they've been in the F tier for a long time. I would love to see like Skywrath. I would even love to see Silencer, which I don't have on the list. Like, you could play Silencer mid. I would never want to put Lion on this list. Stop picking Lion mid. And don't pick Rubik mid either. I mean, I could put Lion and Rubik. Stop it. Stop, guys. These are supports. Every time you pick this in my game, I just know that the game is lost. You know, it's a 10% win chance if we have a Rubik or a Lion mid. It's just never working ever, so stop doing it, please. But these are two heroes, and like I said, even Silencer, that I would love to see be good mid laners. It just feels like they're just being focused on more as a support. I would love to see them transition into a mid laner, though, if that was possible. And that, everyone, is the mid tier list for patch 7.39c. Let me know what you think in the comments. If you disagree with any of these positionings or think they should be adjusted, any hero go up or down or added, just let me know. And if you like the video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.